The attack on Pearl Harbor. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was the culmination of 2 decades of friction that existed between those countries. Japan's increased efforts at expanding its territory created even more tension with major Western countries like the US, France, and Britain. An attack on China by Japan in 1937 was criticized by many members of the League of Nations and illustrated the Asian country's military might and readiness to use it. After World War II had started, efforts to deter Japan proved ineffective, and on September 27, 1940, the country signed the Tripartite Act to form the Axis powers with Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, and gain even more power. This proved a direct threat to the United States, as the country was now in danger of attack on both its coasts. The US made steps to prepare for war, but remained neutral. Japan continued their invasion through Indochina in 1940 and 41. Meanwhile, the United States tried to halt their progress by banning exports to the country, most importantly oil and raw materials, closing shipping lanes to their use, and other such tactics. Japan desperately needed US oil, but the Americans demanded they leave China. Japan refused and decided swift military action was their only option. Negotiations finally stalled, and on December 1, 1941, Japan officially approved war against the US, Great Britain, and Holland.
August 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
This event single-handedly spurred the United States into joining World War II. It was to begin with an attack to neutralize the U.S. Pacific Fleet in Pearl Harbor on Hawaii's Oahu Island. Japan hoped to take control of Southeast Asia without being impeded, and the attack was meant to accomplish this while also crushing American morale and neutralizing the U.S. so Japan could expand their conquests elsewhere. Battle began before Japan had formally declared war on the United States, making it a surprise attack. This left the Americans unprepared and scrambling to defend themselves. The attack took place in 2 waves, coming from both the air and the water. The first wave began just before 8 a.m. on December 7th, with the second coming an hour later. Though the attack only lasted 2 hours, by the time it was over, almost every American plane had been damaged, as had a number of other military crafts. 2 battleships, the USS Oklahoma and the USS Arizona, were completely destroyed. In fact, the Arizona remains underwater in Pearl Harbor as a memorial to honor those lost in the battle. The death toll of this attack reached over 2,300, including military personnel and civilians. Just 1 day later, the United States officially entered World War II, marking a turning point in this historic conflict.
The American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
King of Kings! SpongeBob, Gunshot, Plankton in dem Brand, Gangster, Schwammkopf mit der Gun. SpongeBob.